All right. Very excited. Welcome, entire the entire community. This is spreading across many organizations. We have Circle, Alchemy, Quantstamp, Trust Wallet. Very excited that everyone here is going to be able to take part and listen into this really in-depth conversation. I had a chance to just listen to the convos happening behind the scenes, and I got to tell you that I was taking notes. It's really great. Truly excited for this streaming event. Truly excited because guess what? We actually have co-authors of the ERC6900 with us to discuss this exciting event. Want to welcome everybody to this live stream. I'm going to slowly get out the way here because, as I said, we have the co-authors themselves here with us. But my name is Sam Seeley. I'm with Circle, Director of Developer and Ecosystem Marketing. And I'm going to pass it along the room, starting with you, my good friend Fangting. Please give us all an introduction of yourself, and let's go ahead and get this live stream started.
Hi everyone, my name is Fangting Liu. I'm a tech lead engineer at Alchemy. I'm super excited to be here to talk about ERC6900 with you all.
Awesome. Ruben, how you doing, my friend?
What's up? Yeah, my name is Ruben. I'm security engineer over at Quantstamp. For those of us who aren't familiar with it, we're a native Web3 security company doing basically all things Web3 security and more. Yeah, excited to be here.
And David Kim, how you doing, my friend?
Hi everyone, I'm David. I'm an engineer at Trust Wallet. Yeah, excited to be here and thanks for having us today.
Great. And last but absolutely not least, our moderator and Mike extraordinaire for this event, Alokik, my good friend. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks so much, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm Alokik. I'm a group PM at Circle, focused a lot around how we can build better stablecoin experiences and how we can increase the utility of stablecoins for more real-world use cases. And super excited today to host three co-authors of ERC6900. I'm going to play moderator and at least from time to time give our perspective from a Circle side on why we are very excited about modular smart contracts in ERC6900. So just before I kind of start and start asking a lot of questions to the three co-authors today, let me just set the stage of where we are right now as it comes towards just in general smart wallets and why they're important. It's going to be close to a decade that Ethereum kind of launched, right? And in this almost decade, we've come a long way, right? A lot of things at a technology level have improved on the Ethereum side, went from proof of work to proof of stake. We've gone from a system wherein all transactions were going to be happened in L1s to a more L2 centric roadmap, right? We're seeing clear PM product market fit around the first few use cases, right? We've seen DeFi be there, stablecoins be there, seen early experiments around NFTs and different things there. And even we've also kind of seen a lot of TradFi markets kind of coming in on chain, right? You have all the ETFs of Ethereum, you have more TradFi people launching tokenized money market funds, etc. But I think this is just the start, right? There's a lot more which all of us believe where the on-chain world has to kind of go. We need more than 1 billion people on chain very soon. And as we think about what will get people on chain, and we talk a lot about this at Circle since we build stablecoins, we think it comes down to three things. It comes down to legal clarity. It comes down to decreasing costs of using things on chain. And it comes down to a very superb crypto UX. We've seen it a lot of on both the legal clarity with MiCA and other things around the world. There's just more regulatory clarity as it comes to crypto assets and digital assets. We've seen gas fees now consistently less than a cent on a lot of different L2s. So this panel really, and modular wallets really, is about the third big problem, which is how do we improve the UX of crypto so that it becomes super easy for a lot more people to use it in a very safe way. So there are a lot of problems around crypto UX, and I won't go into each of them, like keys, gas, trusting signers, like a bunch of different things, right? And when you see a lot of these problems, it's pretty interesting on how many of these are actually solvable at a wallet or an account level. And I think that's where we landed at account abstraction. Account abstraction, for those unfamiliar, is the phenomena of replacing or like the movement of going from externally owned accounts, EOA accounts, which were the dominant way in which you hold crypto assets, to smart contracts, right? It's not really new. I think early experiments around smart contracts really started around 2018, and I think Safe, Gnosis Safe, for those of you who are familiar, is one of the pioneers of actually like starting account abstraction a lot earlier and kind of starting this pivot towards smart wallets. It was for a specific use case, multi-sig, and it is a very dominant way in how people store assets today. But I think in 2023, when something called ERC4337 really came in, that helped standardize how these smart wallets can actually work and send transactions, introduce concepts like bundlers and paymasters, and really started the narrative towards more people actually using smart wallets. So a smart wallet is nothing but the wallet becomes a smart contract. It's a smart contract. You can program anything and everything around that. Programming anything and everything around that gives you a very, very good UX. So that's the context. That's where we are. We have a few smart contract engineers here to talk about all the things that you can kind of program as these contracts exist. And what's very interesting is that we have folks from very different layers of the blockchain stack, right? David here is from Trust Wallet, which is one of the biggest consumer wallets, and Ruben, who is from Quantstamp, which is a leading security audit company in Web3, and Fangting from Alchemy, which is one of the leading blockchain infra providers, right? And I'm kind of going to be more from an asset issuer, like a USDC and CCTV perspective, and kind of share my perspective. So we have 3-4 very different layers of the stack, and that's what I'm very excited about. So maybe to start off with, maybe for you, David, from a perspective of Trust Wallet, like, can you share how you actually landed towards modular smart wallets and kind of what got you to focus on this and today essentially become a co-author of ERC6900?
Yeah, sure. So back then, like, it's been some time, so there are some history, but back then, like when we initially saw the account abstraction coming in, but even before like the 4337 discussion, we had a lot of discussions and thoughts regarding like how we can escalate the wallet UX. And when we saw the ERC 4337, it just came into our mind that, oh, we should build something on top of it, because we really see the new users, like from the CS related parts where through the community were from diverse aspects, that the entire Web3 ecosystem, including Trust Wallet users, needed something to escalate their UX, additional use cases. So yeah, we wanted to build a wallet, and while looking into them, one very great merit that we saw in terms of account abstraction, especially modular wallets, is that we not only try to use our own internal developer resource, but have like an ally or community members that build together and companies build together. So it not only increases the security when adding additional features, but increase the developer velocity and diverse aspects. So yeah, we really got excited when we saw the ERC6900, and yeah, wanted to contribute on that and be part of the ecosystem. So yeah, that was like a brief history of how we came into the modular wallet space.
That's awesome. Yes, like I think the building together piece is definitely very alluring, right? Like these are smart contracts. Everyone like a module is a smart contract. Everyone can kind of write these. If somebody else writes it, if it's safe and secure, you can kind of use it. That's super interesting. David, like any specific modules or use cases that are particularly interesting for you from a Trust Wallet perspective?
Yeah, sure. So since we mainly focus on retail and consumers, users, so something that users can use on their daily life, or something that could be very beneficial directly to the user, is something we are very interested in. And some of them includes payment-related modules, trading-related modules, for example, like a limit order or a DCA that users could do just by installing a module in their wallet. I think those two related functionalities are something we are having a close look in terms of 6900 modules.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of so interesting that doing DCA in a non-custodial way is still so difficult, right? So it's very interesting how a simple module like this could help such those use cases, and it's pretty easy on centralized exchanges to actually do it DCA. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Maybe moving to you, Ruben. You're more on the audit side, and you're probably seeing a ton of smart contracts. What got you more involved in the modular contract world, and specifically with the ERC6900 world?
Yeah, for us, it really started about a year ago with an audit we did for the Alchemy team. We audited the initial version of the modular account, which was based on v0.6 at the time of the 6900 standard. And we really had a lot of fun exploring the standard, going deep. And as part of the audit process, we uncovered like a few quirks in the design that we thought would be nice addressing on a EIP level. And eventually they made it into v0.7. And Circle and Alchemy were great enough to actually invite us for the co-authorship. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us. It's kind of like an unusual spot for BN as a security company, but given that I believe that this will power like the next generation of wallets, and that this has like a very specific focus on rigorously defining like different behaviors, including hooks, which really bring a lot of like user security. It's really interesting to think about the security aspects of the standard itself. So that's our journey.
That's super awesome. Always good to be co-invited, and I know you've been doing a ton of work on the security side to make sure this is a pretty safe and secure standard that we are working on. Also, have to ask you like, and I'm guessing this would probably be something close to security, but what are some types of modules and use cases you're very interested in as it comes towards modular smart wallets?
Yeah, your guess is very much right. So for me, what I'm interested in is like these past months, we all have observed like a lot of phishing attempts happening. Basically, one wrong signature and your entire wallet can be drained on most of the current generation of wallets. And I think what I would like to see in the future, like I don't think necessarily it exists yet to this degree. But this is really where like permissionless innovation kicks in, and like perhaps someone is inspired to build it. I'm happy to review it. I could see a structure where a module where you like put different asset classes or different different amounts of asset into different vaults within the same wallet. And for example, you could have like a degen vault where you like easily hand out approvals for different bridges left and right, and you're like not really concerned about those funds. But at the same side, you could perhaps also within the same wallet have a cold storage aspect to the whole wallet. So you can basically, what I would like to see is a module where you can like maintain different levels of access unlocked by different signature schemes or different multi-sigs. So I think that would be something that is kind of possible with a multi-sig setup, but really not as smoothly right now.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like different, like same wallet, different types of assets or balances, and different security policies around that. It must be fun as an auditor to have that type of wallet and a security researcher. It's exciting, and I agree with you. It's not too far away. Like we could probably see something like that, and probably have a few modules around cold storage that exist. Over to you, Fangting. From your perspective, share more. I know Alchemy was one of the first folks kind of thinking more about modular smart wallets. So like what got Alchemy was more on the node infra side to start looking at modular smart wallets.
Yeah. So at Alchemy, so naturally we started with infrastructure back in 2022, 2023 when account abstraction was out. We built the first and most reliable bundler and gas manager. Those were the two products we started, and now over 80% of the smart accounts rely on that infrastructure. Well, while we were developing these tools, we quickly saw a need in the smart account space for more flexibility and improved user experience and dev experience to truly match the Web 2 experience. So that's why we proposed the first version of the ERC6900. Since then, though, we've welcomed many co-authors and contributors, and two of the co-authors are here in this panel today with me. And those are the people who shaped ERC6900 into what it is now today, v0.7 just out. So that's the backstory of how Alchemy got into the smart accounts.
That's awesome. And of course, like I've asked this question to both David and Ruben, so I have to also ask it to you, like modules and use cases. I know there are three engineers, and all of you would probably want to talk more about infra, but as the only product manager here, I have to get it back to use cases. What are some modules and use cases that you're super excited about at Alchemy?
Yeah, so it's not one module, but more of like a cluster of modules. And the use case that we are really excited about at Alchemy is session keys. They essentially allow users to create permissions with specific constraints. This is going to be very beneficial for applications that require multiple transactions in a short or a set period of time. So they basically streamlines everything. Users don't have to approve every single transaction anymore, and that's going to improve the user experience significantly. Let's use gaming, for example. So when a gamer opens loot boxes, get items, trade with friends in the current Web3, you might have to sign transactions for each action. But with session keys, there's no need for approval anymore. It just feels like the ease of Web2. So, but it's also secure too, because like Ruben said, in the use case, he mentioned that not all apps should have equal access to the use case, and users might have, more loose app permissions for certain vaults, like addition vault. So anyway, with ERC6900, users can control which permissions are given to which session keys. And for example, in the gaming example, you can limit a gaming app to only interact with gaming contracts and assets. So to make sure that permissions are set for the right keys for the right things. Now, so I think session keys are going to be not only simplify user experience, but provide this layer of security with permission control. It's going to be a real shift for smart accounts.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like before I understood session keys, and after I understood session keys, I was like, yeah, why don't we still have this for the on-chain world? It's one of those things, right? It's so, the way we use permissions in the Web2 world is like so obvious. We use it at like such certain like things. And when you kind of go towards the on-chain world, it is so hard to kind of actually build that. So yeah, super exciting to see session keys and all the good UX, automatic transactions, permissions, scope permissions, super stuff, and super powerful to do that. I was going to talk a lot about how we were thinking about Circle, like around modules around Circle, but I think all three of you answered all my questions around that. I mean, when we look at USDC, we look at two things. How can you securely store USDC? How can you easily move USDC? Ruben talked about great stuff like, cosigner, validator of securing USDC, different amounts and spending limits, which make it easy to store USDC in the same account, like multi-sig, stuff like that. So there's like a lot around security of USDC that these modules provide. And then both Fangting and David talked about how the experience of easily using it either for like DCing to a DeFi pool or like a game and you want to do that. We think a lot about that. Like how can we kind of enable USDC subscriptions? How can we enable a simple DCA into DeFi using USDC? And it's super interesting how modular wallets kind of actually significantly improve the experience of using USDC at a wallet level. So super exciting, and thank you for mainly answering all the modules that we are excited about, to three of you. Cool. Now, maybe spearing ahead a bit around the ERC6900, right, specifically. I know, like, maybe Fangting, you can, maybe a question for you, which is, like, tell us a bit more about ERC6900. What are the key design choices here? Maybe just start like a high level definition of what ERC6900 is for somebody who is not very familiar and would love like a more detailed deep dive into what that is for people who are more familiar with it.
Of course, and I'd love to also share some early backstories. So ERC6900 is essentially this standard that basically help smart accounts and modules to communicate with each other in a standard way such that different accounts and different modules can communicate through the standard and common interfaces with each other, therefore to improve both the user experiences and dev experiences. So for some of the design choices that we made on 6900, I wanted to focus on two areas that I think have the most significant impact and value added for the ecosystem. One is the modular design, and another one is why we implemented a permission system. At the time, user experience was a top priority, and it still is when we developed the standard. We took a modular approach, which basically allows, as I mentioned earlier, accounts and modules to communicate seamlessly. That's to maximize the flexibility. We broke the account into three parts: validation, so you can consider that as auth, execution, so the actual action you want to take, and hooks, the permissions. So this split lets users to mix and match components for the best experiences across different applications. Now, security was just as important, and at the very beginning, our co-author Yo from ETH Foundation suggested a permission system, which we added after the first draft, and have improved over the time with our co-authors and contributors. It adds a little bit of a complexity, but it was worth it, as it lets users to assign specific permissions to validation, execution, which boosting security, and makes all the session keys and all those modules we talked about possible. So, going back to the gaming example, you will be able to limit a gaming app to just interact with gaming contracts. Next version, view 0.8, it's now updated on the website, EIP website, so go take a look. The structure becomes even more flexible. Users can enforce multiple validation mechanisms and set separate permissions, etc. So those are just like a couple of things that we have gone through and iterate through over the course of to ensure ERC6900 offers a flexible yet secure framework for wallet builders.
Thank you so much for that overview. So once the permission side, the other is how the module should be designed. Could you share maybe an example of how the module side would actually be live? For example, let's say a session key, right? How does the validation, execution, post-execution workflow would work? Maybe in a real life example, you were talking about gaming. If you can just talk about that example wherein I go to a game, give the game the ability to move a certain ERC20 token or maybe an ERC721 token that the game has. How does that flow on the module side really work?
So in the gaming example, so you would be creating this accounts with the gaming app. Let's just and then the gaming will ask you permission to install a session key onto your account, and this session key could be a contract, could be an EOA, whatever the gaming app wants. And when you install this, the gaming might ask you, I wanted this permissions, or your wallet provider may ask you, what kind of permissions do you want to give to the gaming app? So in this example, you might want to give the gaming app maybe two contract access. One is the actual gaming main contract. One is the trading contract where you can exchange goods and stuff with other users. So in this case, this gaming session key will have access to two contracts that is audited and trusted already. One is the actual game, and one is the trading. And in this case, that So you'll know exactly what those two contracts are going to be doing, and the session key will not be able to interact with other contracts and other accounts. So in that way, you're pretty sure that as long as the gaming contract and the trading contract of the gaming goods are good, you're pretty set. And so that's how a session key module, and with permissions coming in this case, to help the users to have a better gaming experience, but also be secure.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, the second part which you mentioned was permission side, and I'm guessing permissions touch a lot around the security side. So maybe kind of moving to you, Ruben, like, can you talk more about the security model of 6900 and what are some of the key considerations as they've kind of gone towards designing ERC6900?
Yeah, of course. I think the first thing to really focus on is like, what is ERC6900 enabling you to do? And it's essentially like executing third-party code within your wallet, within your account. And that, of course, like sounds kind of scary. And a lot of the things we build around the standard is essentially making sure that in reality, of course, like imposes as little security risk as possible. So I think the two main things we really focused on that Fangting already briefly touched upon is the concept of hooks and also the permission system or the manifest. With hooks, users can essentially add additional functionality that they can either themselves write or that some other entity that is not the module we want to install we can install that in addition to the module we are installing to essentially keep the module further in check. So we could do balance checks, we could do slippage checks, we can do all sort of things to make sure that the module interacts with contracts we want it to interact and in a way that it is supposed to interact. So that reduces to some level the trust required into a module. And what is also a very cool aspect is the permission system or the manifests you provide as part of the installation process of modules. Basically, the user has like perfect control over what functionality is being added to the account by really specifying what execution functions are being added and what validation is associated with that, like really a very clear instruction set on what the module will be permissioned to do on the account. So that's really two interesting ways to keep the modules in check, even if they're from third parties. And what I'm also very excited about for v0.8 is the concept of multi-validation. So we can now have like multiple different sort of like unlock mechanisms for the same functionality. And that can be, these different unlock functionalities can have different levels of security assumptions. And that should enable like really cool aspects around like social recovery mechanisms and other stuff. So yeah, like things are getting a lot more flexible with this next version for developers, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's super cool. So I think I love the way you kind of described it, and it's so simple but so easy. Which is like obviously not building the standard is simple, but the way you described it, I really liked it. Which is as a wallet builder, you want to run third-party software inside. How do you make sure that third-party software is as safe as possible for your wallet, right? And then adding this whole permission system, which makes it super which kind of defines how the module interacts with the specific wallet so that it is secure as a wallet perspective. Maybe I know like version 0.8 is coming soon. So maybe can you talk a bit more about what type of use cases will get enabled with the multiple validation logic that you're kind of talking about and what you would hope to see in that flow?
I think multi-validation will really make things more flexible for developers. There's no longer this one specific validation that a module is kind of enforcing on the user, but the user is really free to choose multiple different ones. For example, there can be like a clash that you have, I don't know, a multisig that can execute certain functionality, but you can also have another within the functionality of the multisig, you can have like a perhaps like more loosely constrained set of functionality that another execution function can take by some other validation function. So it is really enabling for the end user to have different levels and really like different levels of validation and security on different functionalities of their account. Tying back to my example of the dgen wallet and the cold storage wallet all within the same smart account. That's I think the core innovation around the multi-validation. Oh, I guess that's our moderator.
Alokik, I think Alokik dropped off. I think that is great. We'll wait for him to come back into the stream. Moving on from there until we wait on, I know that Fangting, you were going to talk about as far as for developers who want to build modules for this ecosystem, what kind of resources is available for them to get started?
Yeah. So the ERC6900.io, the website, and the ERC6900 GitHub organization, those two are the best places to get started. It has most of the resources available. Just to name a few resources, there is a reference implementation if you want to dig into the code immediately. There are a bunch of blogs that are written about ERC6900 and also on how to write a module. And some of the on the website, some of the resources have the old version. So we have modules named plugin before. So it will be updated in the next few updates. So there are also Alchemy programs with auditors that can help you if you already started writing code and want to get them security audited. And I believe Circle also have a grant program for developers, right?
Yes, we do have a grant program. Sorry, my internet went and I'm back now. Sorry about that. Yes, we do have a grant program. And where were we? Were you explaining how people can build modules, or?
Yeah, I was just talking about what are the resources while we were waiting for you that developers can look into.
Perfect. Yes. Apologies about that. Yeah, they do check out on ERC6900.io, have a bunch of different resources, and apologies that my internet went. As Ruben was explaining, multi-validation, but hopefully he answered that question and all of you understood. So I'll pick up back from that specific conversation. So kind of coming back to the ERC6900 deep dive, right? We can't talk about like modular wallets and ERC6900 without talking about our friends who are working on ERC7579. I know the awesome folks at like ZeroDev, OKX, Rhinestone, Biconomy are kind of coming together and also kind of working on a very, very good standard around 7579. And it kind of brings out like different design choices that both of these standards have built. So maybe David, a question for you. To somebody who does not understand the nuances and the difference between ERC6900 and 7579, how would you define what are like some of the key differences in approach around both of these standards?
Yeah, sure. I think before diving into like the specific aspects of both standard and what are the differences, I think it may be worth going back on like what were the focuses of those two standards. So for the ERC6900, it somehow very detailedly shares like the behaviors or some of the security aspects that the account should enforce. And for one great example that Fangting and Ruben was also sharing was regarding the permission system. So before installing a module, a user can actually very clearly know like what are the capabilities these modules will have and those aspects. So ERC6900 really cares a lot about security and also interoperability between modules, and also like how the account should behave in order to actually allow a very secure aspect of designing accounts and how account execute. However, for ERC7579, it's I think slightly different. They somehow focus on the modularity, not modularity, but like the minimal aspects. So what developers should do in order to accommodate 7579 is relatively lesser compared to 6900, with a trade-off that modules have slight more flexibility, but are slightly lower aspect of how they can actually see like what modules can actually do. The other thing is related to permission, like 7579 in exchange for not having permission allows modules to be more flexible in terms of what they do. But from a user perspective, when they need to install a module, there needs to be a slightly more stronger assumption in terms of what a module could do and those things. So yeah, I think those are like some slight differences. Maybe Ruben and Fangting could add from a security and engineering perspective, but I think the main difference is like the design mindset of what both parties really wanted to enable.
Yeah, I
Ruben,
think
I think.
what is key is really the minimal nature is what's key about 7579. I think both standards actually exist very beautifully in parallel. I think it's great that we have like this very minimal version of a modular account standard and this very rigorously defined standard that really makes sure that there's as little error space as possible when interacting with different modules. Yeah, I think especially like again around the hook functionality. That's what I also find very interesting. Is that we have, in addition to the execution hooks, we have validation hooks. We can add two other validation functions to actually also keep the validation functions we install in check. So like another like trust reduction mechanism even on the validation function we're installing, as well as different hook associations we can have between we can have associated hooks to validation functions. All these make the standard significantly more complex and perhaps harder initially to get started with as a developer, but I think ultimately also are helpful for developers that want to be compatible to a great degree and really want to maximize what they know that they can rely on an account providing. I think 6900 is a bit more forward facing and a bit like harder for developers to get started with, and 7579 is a bit more forgiving, but also very much focused on enabling interoperability. Yeah.
Yeah, both Ruben and David are spot on. And one thing I do want to mention is that we are continuously and always happy to working with 7579 co-authors to hopefully we can get a lot of the interfaces similar so that we can decrease the fragmentation of module developers and make their experience a bit better when they wanted to develop certain modules for both standards.
No, that's awesome. I think all three of you covered that super well. And yeah, I think if there are more compatible standards across this, and as we kind of work towards that while making certain design choices, I think that's definitely, at least as module builders, I know people would be happy if they have to build less number of modules and it works with more standards. So hopefully, as we kind of go into the phase wherein both these standards become even more well defined, we'll kind of at least hopefully converge at least at some point. Cool. Now, kind of moving on. I know, like with modular standards, there are a bunch of different modules kind of getting built. The wallet and the build, like the wallet kind of changes. So I often think about what will be like the future building blocks for these modular wallets, right? So maybe David, starting with you, since you kind of build a very end user and consumer focused wallet, how do you envision the end user experience as it comes to these modules? Is it something that the end user will decide like, hey, I want X module and I want to install it on my wallet? Very similar to how we choose to install different apps on our on our phone, right? Or do you think it's something more that a wallet developer will like just automatically enable under the hood, obviously which requires a end user sign, but the idea being that the end user is coming in for a use case and all, it's actually the wallet developer choosing what these modules are. So at least I wonder a lot about how this whole flow will kind of pan out. So very curious to understand how you guys are thinking about that.
Of course. I think that's a great point and something we've been also thinking of a lot previously and also currently. Um, I think initially, like the way how users interact with the module will likely be invisible. For example, like if a user will use a certain type of feature, like module installation will be done under the hood. So from a user perspective, it looks like there are more use cases and features ongoing. I think that will be like the initial phase of how wallets will actually utilize modules under the hood. However, as wallets become more sophisticated and more modules being built and more users coming in, some users will naturally focus on just payment related aspects. Some users will more focus on trading related aspects. So I think like in the end, the users will actually somehow think of a module similar to an application or more like a use case. And something that Trust Wallet also have in mind is initially we will build modules and then serve users with new use cases and features. But at the end, we create an open ecosystem where anyone can register their modules, write down their description of like what modules are capable of, and then users coming in and installing modules. But they might not feel it's like a module, but perhaps like an application built in into their plug as a plugin of their wallet. So I back to your question. I think initially it will be more of like how wallet developers somehow proposing users to use this feature, and modules are naturally used under the hood. But as wallets use case become more sophisticated and many features comes in, it will naturally be more like an application layer where users who needs this specific feature will try to install those types of modules and have those functionalities within the wallet.
No, that's super cool. It's almost like a trust wallet module store or some sort of that is some kind of future, like the longer term future that you envision, wherein a bunch of folks and third parties are actually building modules that different wallets, different end users can extend. And in the short term, it'll be a more curated experience around end user experiences, which probably Trust Wallet will be curating. I'm just like, I mean, on that point, they were like curious, like how many modules do you expect to be there by end of next year? Do you think it will be like tens, hundreds? Just curious, um, like how many are we talking about? Yeah.
That's a hard question. I would say like maybe hundreds, depending. But one thing for sure is that like Alchemy team who pioneered the 6900, they will continue to build new innovative modules. Ourselves will do it as well, and there are a lot of perks and benefits for building on top of 6900. And we also have an awesome security team, Quantstamp, who is, I think, more than happy to review like 6900 related modules and ecosystem contracts. So I think like the foundation is quite set now. It's more like users coming in, and then when they actually see the power of modular accounts coming in, I think like the developer ecosystem will naturally evolve, seeing the demand from the users. And so yeah, it's my hope to have hundreds of modules, perhaps like over 1,000, if that would be possible.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting. Hopefully Ruben is taking notes. I guess he'll have to buff up the auditing team there if there's going to be hundreds and thousands of modules as David is suggesting. But Ruben,
Oh
going
yeah,
towards
that will
you.
be a challenge. I mean, I know for sure it's at least tens because that's how many we already reviewed. So of course, like with the new version coming up, we kind of have to review the next iteration of modules, and that kind of like resets the bar for this next version. Yeah, I think even like in this next coming weeks, we will already review like I think at least 5. I think is what the Alchemy team has prepared for us. So. I think it will at least be tens by end of year, and yeah, I hope it will be in the hundreds end of next year.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now
It's
they're going to be
actually
like, oh yeah,
Ruben.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Alok. Yeah, Ruben's actually 6. I just want to add, I think the new version has made it so easy to develop modules because it takes a lot of security concerns off the module developers. So, and we probably will see a lot of modules coming in because how the dev experience is going to be so much better.
That's awesome. They're trying to just increase scope, and people complain about product managers increasing scope. Uh, uh, Anyways, kind of moving towards moving towards this future where hundreds of like modules are there, or tens or hundreds, and depending on how we ramp up, depending on use cases, right? Ruben, like I guess there'll be a lot more people like me who are necessarily not smart contract engineers who are selecting modules, right? Um, um, how do we ensure that for an end user or for somebody who's just not familiar, not necessarily an end user, could be a developer, just not a smart contract developer, right? Um, how do we ensure these on-chain smart contracts are really safe as they integrate it into their wallets? How do you see that side of the modular smart wallet world playing out?
Yeah, I think there's really 2 aspects to that question. The first one being what an end user can do, and then the other aspect being what can module developers do to remain like as secure as possible. And I think when it comes to like making sure you install like modules that behave as expected, to some level you will need to shift trust somewhere, right? Like even if you install something from the App Store, then you trust Apple to, basically have a selection of apps that will not completely wreck your phone. It's at some level there will be like different trust levels. For example, like us as an auditor, we can of course attest to what we deem as secure. There's a standard push forward by Rhinestone 7484, which is an attestation service that is very interesting, where you can basically, as a trusted entity like us, Quantstamp, we can attest to the security of some module. And that could be something that an end user reviews as part of the installation process. Additionally, end users can also rely on the wallet vendor to provide them like a proper selection of apps, and the wallet vendor would make sure that the modules are audited and are interoperable and are written with best practices. Yeah, and of course, best is always if the end user to some level performs due diligence themselves. That's, I think, from the user side. So there's different parties you can basically put some trust into in order to get only secure modules installed. Of course, from the module developer side, all the best practice that tie to regular smart contract development also tie to this, plus more. So of course you should have a proper test suite. You should have well-documented code. You should go through security audits. You should have a deployment check. You should have on-chain monitoring. You should have a bug bounty program, all these things. But on top of that, you also need to very carefully make sure that you properly comply with the 6900 standard. And not even the 6900 standard, but if you want to support it through the 4337 account abstraction standard, you also need to comply with that. So it's really, important to follow the standard, and yeah, probably takes some time for developers to get started with that. But yeah, I think ultimately that's how you get secure models out there and the best user experience as well. It's crucial that yeah, these first waves of plugins are as secure as possible, of course. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting how both the attestation side as well as developers, for both those audiences, how the safety aspect happens. But yeah, it's super encouraging. We're already making some progress there, and once we have more modules, I think this problem will really be at the forefront. Okay, we are reaching, like, we're close to like the last 10 minutes, so want to kind of quickly move to this question that was asked, which is that any specific modules that don't exist today that you would want to see. So more like a rapid fire for all three of you. Anyone can go first. Any modules you're excited to see which are not there right now?
I think I touched on my my vault type module. I think that is really something that I desperately look for myself. That would make me feel a lot more secure within interacting with all these DeFi apps. Yeah, I think everything really around creating layers of access control to your wallets. Yeah, I think that is really something what I would love to see more.
Anyone else outside of what you said? If not, we can go to the next question.
I have something to add. These days, also one UX hot topics is regarding how we enable a non-fragmented chain experience. So a lot of times in chain abstraction research, there's account lock model or asset lock model that comes in. And I think if used very well, I think 6900 modules could also be a great match in terms of locking modules, assets through a module, and then performing chain abstracted actions. So yeah, those are some things that I also look forward. Perhaps building a trust, or community members contributing and working on it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have not too much to add. Very similar. What I'm really looking forward to, what David is saying, is how can we abstract chains with one smart account or multiple smart account, but essentially it's using the similar infra behind the hood, and also to get consolidated liquidity across different chains without the need of bridging and having to go through all those loops and hoops.
Yeah, we talk a lot about chain abstracted experiences, and definitely modular way to go is a very interesting way on how you kind of have this chain agnostic USDC or chain abstracted USDC. So yeah, super exciting. Okay, now moving towards the end, question for you, Fangting. For developers who want to build this ecosystem, what kind of resources are available? I know you shared a bit while my internet dropped, but maybe if you want to give the quick TLDR there too, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, sounds good. So as I mentioned earlier, so there are two main places to get started. This is the ERC6900.io. So this website hosts everything about ERC6900, and some of them are a little bit old, but we're going to update them soon. So this is where you can get started. And another place is the GitHub organization ERC6900. There we have the reference invitation, we have the issues that to be worked on. If you don't know what to work on, feel free to pick something there. Those are I would suggest those two places to get started.
Awesome. Yeah, David, Ruben, any last kind of tips around building modules, security practices, as we hope more and more developers build on top of ERC6900?
Yeah, I think like Ruben already mentioned a lot of like great parts for like how to build a secure modules. One thing that I would also like to emphasize is regarding like having like a trusted registry, as Ruben mentioned, because at some point in time, like for module developers, like users would have to trust them to do it, and users a lot of times don't have the knowledge or like at least time to actually go through the code line by line and then see like what module does. But if there is a place like a registry where could perform those on behalf of the user, it would like reduce a lot of like work and research a user should do and trust assumption as well. So integrating with a registry could be one. And perhaps like a general advice is 6900 is very open. We also have a Telegram group dedicated for this, a website, and there's GitHub. So please engage with us. And yeah, I think that would also be like another piece of advice for users who want to tap into this field.
I think another
Awesome.
aspect that will be great for developers will be to leverage the module template that is also part of the GitHub organization. So there's a very good like template that will already get you very far in setting up, like the manifests and yeah, like the rough like separation between validation and execution phase for the 4337 flow. I think that will already like propel you very forward in your development. One thing I do want to get out, we briefly touched upon it here, is we are currently in the final stages of releasing heartbreaking chains, hard forking change. So the V0.8 version is coming out soon. We are currently deep in the trenches and trying to find all the things wrong with it. But that should be wrapped up very soon. And so perhaps module developers already start looking at the V0.8 implementation, but perhaps don't just deploy stuff already, but give us a few weeks to finalize that version. I think there's also V0.7 is going to continue to be out there and is already very great. And there's also very nice plugins out there already. So yeah, it's definitely a good time to get started with the ecosystem right now. But if you want to work with the latest and greatest version, perhaps give it a few weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
I
this
just
is the
want to
last.
add.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to add one thing on top of Ruben. So if you wanted to, if you are reading the V0.8 code already, and you can go to the eip.ethereum.org, the EIP6900 website is actually currently up to date with V0.8, so give you a better understanding of why the code up written the way it is. This is not the final version yet, and we're still working with co-authors and auditors to make sure we have everything rock solid. So use this as a reference to get into the latest version.
Awesome. Awesome. Those are like a bunch of different very good links for everyone to look out, right from the Telegram group around modular smart contract accounts, as well as the ERC website, as well as the post. Hopefully, this is the last breaking change, and no more breaking changes. That's what at least I'm hoping. Yes, with that, thank you everyone. Thank you, Fangting. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you for taking time out and talking to everyone. Thank you, everyone who joined. Want to give a big shout out to a bunch of folks behind the scenes who made this possible. Lisa J from Alchemy, Nikita from Quantstamp, Nanfeng and Artem from Trust Wallet, Nicholas and Sam from the Circle team, and also to all the remaining co-authors and contributors of ERC6900. I know there are a bunch of people building modules, so appreciate everyone who is working to make this possible. Sam, over to you. Thank you so much for wonderfully moderating this today.
No, I enjoyed it. I had first row seats to a great conversation. I feel like I know everybody here a little bit more. I learned so much about this. Want to give a quick shout out as well. Modules for programmable wallets is coming soon, so make sure to visit the website. You can go ahead and pull it up right now. modules for programmable wallets, learn some more information, sign up to get into the early access so you can start, you can get notified as soon as the beta program goes live and available to you. Make sure you visit that right away. So I want to give a quick shout out to that. Once again, thank you to everyone that joined. Thank you for everyone that hung out with us this incredible hour. I can't wait to do more of these real soon. On behalf of Alokik, Fangting, Ruben, and David, everybody enjoy.